I am going to walk you through creating an optimized image component in Next.js. We will start by creating a new Next.js app. And to do that, we'll have to get the skeleton of the project. So we can use npx create next app latest. We could just go through each default setting. Let's call it Imgix optimized image. Would you like TypeScript? Yes. ESLint? Yes. Tailwind? Yes. Source directory? Let's go with no. And app router? Yes. Would you like to customize the default import alias? No. We can go with no for that. So now, whilst this is building, I can go ahead and create an account on Imgix. So if we create an account, and there we go. So should have received an email to my email. Here we go. Let's set up the account. Let's just check back on our Next.js project. As you can see, that is completing. There we go. Now it has completed. So now I can just use code Imgix optimized image. That should open up this project. And effectively what we want to do is go to the next config, which is here. And we want to add images. And we want to add a domain for those images. So we can come back to this in a minute. But effectively we're adding a domain here that will allow us to use the images from our Imgix bucket. So add a new password. Okay, so now that I've created my account in Imgix, it is asking me for a source type. And what we want to do is select Amazon S3 here. And what that's going to do is use an S3 bucket for your source of images. Now we need to retrieve the access key, secret access key, the S3 bucket name, and the path. And we can do that by creating a bucket on here. So let's just do example bucket Imgix. Now that bucket has been created. And for the sake of the video, I'm going to create a folder and we're just going to call it uploads. So now we have this folder, uploads. We can now go back to our source and see here we have this path prefix. So that can be uploads. That's the folder within our bucket. Our S3 bucket name is example bucket Imgix. And now we just need to retrieve the access key and secret key. What we're going to do is create an IAM role, and this effectively creates a user that has access to our S3 bucket. So we want to create a new user. Example user Imgix. Go next. We want to attach a new policy. And that policy we can create. So that policy is actually going to come from the documentation here. And if we scroll down, you can see this policy here. So I'm going to create a new policy using the JSON format. And as you can see, I have to rename this to the bucket name that I created, which is the example bucket Imgix. This effectively allows you to perform all of these actions on the bucket via your user, which I will create now. It is asking me to keep the version string, so okay, that should be good. Policy name can be Imgix S3 policy. And I'm going to create that policy. So now that I've created the policy, I can go back to my user, and it is this policy we've just created. Create that user, and there we go. Now we've got this user. example user Imgix. So now what we want to do is to give this user access to our S3 bucket. And the way we do that is via access keys. So we create an access key and we go ahead with that. And we don't need a description. Now we have this access key. So I'm going to cross this out and this, and I'm going to copy and paste the access key and the secret key. And there we go. We have our access key, secret key, our bucket name, and our path prefix. And so this next part is the domain name we want to use. So I'm just going to use example Imgix as the domain name. And that is exampleimgix.net. And remember before we were talking about our domain name here. So we want to just paste that .imgix.net. So that allows us to use any image with this domain name. And we can go ahead and save that. It should work. There we go. So source has been created and will be deployed shortly. So we can just check in our sources dashboard. It is deploying. Okay, so moving on, we will go to our project again and we can create a new component. So we can add the components folder and we can add a new component which is optimized image .tsx. The optimized image, we want to export default function optimized image, and we want to return a NextJS image. So we can import image from next image, and this can now turn into an image here. So the props can be typed. We can put in a source, an alt, and that's it for now. Let's just go ahead with us. So now what we want to do is add a loader, and the loader is the Imgix URL. So what we're going to do now is create a new loader function, and we are going to return a URL. So we want to do const URL equals new URL, and we are going to add in our URL here, and we are going to then add some parameters for an Imgix URL, such as the format parameter. So URL dot param search params dot set auto format. That works well. And we can also do auto compress. And now that should append the use search parameters onto the end of this for Imgix. And then we want to just return .href. This currently doesn't take in the URL. And what we want to do is import the URL. So we don't want to start storing these Imgix URLs in our database. We want to have free reign over how we optimize our images on the front end, but we ultimately want to store the original image, and I think that's the best way to set this up. Now you can see that this is deployed successfully, so I'm going to now create an image in the bucket. I'm going to go to my S3 bucket, and I am going to add an image to the uploads folder. So let's just download an image. Let's use this image. I'm going to upload this image here. Okay. So we have uploaded an image to the bucket. There we go. And we can now click on this, and you can see we have this object URL. So I'm going to copy that image URL, and that is going to be our source. So we just, for now, give this a default value of that, and we can do fill equals true here, and we're going to make this our Imgix loader, and we can do yarn dev, And then let's go to our page, which is the standard Next.js page, and just delete everything out of here. Okay. Get rid of that. Import the optimized image component. And we don't need a source. We can just give it an alt for now. Alt can be anything. Okay, so now we're importing our image. If I now visit this URL, localhost, and we can see where we're at. Okay, so we need to so effectively what we're trying to do here is we are trying to take this section of, so we can imagine that this is stored in our database. We just need to take this section of the URL. So how we do that? We can put the source into here. And we also need to use client here, I believe. Here we go. Okie dokie. So you can see this is a broken image tag. So what are we passing in at the moment to this component? Let's just give it a console log. So in fact, let me just delete this again. I think that was causing us issues before, but it should work now. And if we pass in what is being passed in as the args here, let's have a look. So we have the source, the width, and the quality. So really what we want is the source in here. So we can change that to source, and we can change this to type, Imgix loader props. That'll be source, width, and quality. There we go. So we have a URL, and what we want to do is we want to get the final path of the URL. So let's just console.log URL. There we go. Okay, so we have this section here. This is the part we want is the final part though. So what we can do is we can do some nifty JavaScript, and we can do const path equals URL dot, there we go, that's what we're looking for, URL path name dot split, there we go, and we can do a dot pop. You can console.log the path. Let's have a look at that. There we go. So now we've got the image name effectively. We can actually change this to image name. And we can now add this to the URL. So we can do const new Imgix URL equals new URL. And then we have HTTPS. So now we just need to append that path to the end of the URL. So Imgix URL dot path name equals / okay, and we can console.log Imgix URL. Let's have a look where we're at. Okie dokie. And that is looking pretty good, I think. We are not appending these. Return the Imgix URL .href. And there it is. There is the image. We are actually filling the screen at the moment. If we just give it a width, let's give this width equals 1200, height equals 800, which is a 3 by 2. There we go. we got there in the end. We want to optimize that a bit. And the way we can do that is by passing in a width into here. So we do Imgix URL dot search params. We can do W, and we can make that the width property here. We can obviously convert that to string. And so let's just say we want to make this image like, I don't know, let's do 400 pixels by 150. Okay, there we go. So we've reduced the size of the image now. And as you can see, we've got this here. I save that. Number 2 now. And you can see now this is 57.2 kilobytes. And I believe the auto format needs to be added as a array. Nope. Okay, so now we've got a auto format, auto compress. We have a width, and finally we can do quality. Imgix URL dot search params dot set Q for quality, and we can have that as a default value of 75 if we like. Okay, now we have this image which loads immediately. I think the real I can see there's an issue here. Object fit doesn't exist. We need to do style equals object fit contain. And okay, so let's just save this image and see what we've got. So it's 61 kilobytes, and it's now AVIF format. As you can see, that's from the auto format. Now what we want to do is to show you this with a larger sized image. So if I just go to, let's do example bucket. I want to go to the uploads folder, upload a file, and if I just do this 3840, let's have a look at the size of this image. Okay, so it's 2 megabytes. Let's upload this to the folder, 2 megabyte image, 1.9. Okay, let's click on the image URL. And now we want to pass in that as the image URL here. Now, in reality, these would be from your database as S3 bucket URLs. So let's just view what we have here. Okay, nice. And if we save that image and save, what we got? A 58.8 kilobyte image, all the way down from 1.9 megabytes. So crazy performance gains on your images with an Imgix loader. Would highly recommend. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video.